Hi, I'm Emma, and welcome to the Unknotted podcast, where we unknot topics of foreign interest. Today, I have the honor to welcome Estonia's ambassador to Ukraine, Mr. Kaimo Kuusk, to our podcast. Hello, and thank you for being here.
Greetings from Kyiv. It's my pleasure to join your program, and thank you for inviting.
Thank you for being here again. And the topics of our show today is going to be, of course, the war in Ukraine, but also we're going to discuss a bit about the recent parliamentary elections that were held in Estonia. So to start off, I'm going to ask you that the war in Ukraine, firstly, has been going on for over a year now. How has your personal perception of the war changed during this time?
Well, the war has lasted more than 9 years between Russia and Ukraine. Started 2014 beginning, and as Russia saw that it cannot reach its goals with those days means, they started a full-scale war a year ago, 24th of February, which actually is also Estonian Independence Day. Well, my view on this war definitely has changed. I thought, maybe hoped, that if Ukraine is able to hurt the aggressor, hurt painfully enough, and I thought 10,000 casualties from Russian side will be enough. Russia will pull back, but my assessment or hope was actually wrong. And at the moment it seems that nothing less than beating Russia on a battlefield is needed to end the war and to well, achieve the situation when in future Russia will not attack its neighbor or neighbors again.
Well, I think as well that the war has been going on much longer than we have anticipated for. And as we saw with Corona, which was going on for longer than we hoped, people got tired of it. What do you think? How long will it take for people and especially Western allies to get tired of the war?
Well, it's depends on the situation in the battlefield. It depends which atrocities or horrors Russia will commit, and well, in that sense, we shouldn't be surprised that Russia will well, execute horrors among civilian population, and it will remind us who we are here in Ukraine or somewhere far away, what is actually going on. So war is continuing. People are not getting used to some situations. People and human beings always getting used to even difficult situations. There's an old saying, I think, that the things which not killing you making you stronger. Don't like this saying very much. I like Estonian pop singer Iris sang a song where she said that things that doesn't kill you make you stranger. So definitely make Ukraine and Russia stranger to each other for centuries. I like the saying that life will catch you. Life will catch you also during the wartime. People are needed to go on with their everyday doings, being with their family, falling in love, etc. So I will not call it to being tired so much. It's you're getting used to the realities you are living. It's not shouldn't be like that. You shouldn't get used to war. At the same time, that's how your own mind preserves you and helps you to act in difficult situations as well. So I hope that such a tiredness will not be widespread in the meaning of that I will turn out the TV, radio, or podcast, not just to realize that somewhere war is going on, continuing.
And the war in Ukraine has tremendously affected us in Estonia as well, and the country of Estonia, from Ukrainian refugees to electricity prices. But one of the latest things that we have seen is that, for example, the Russian tank destroyed by Ukrainian forces is currently on display in Estonia, and it has received mixed reviews and gained attention in the media as well. What would you say to people who are not in favor of displaying it and even show dislike for example, Ukrainian flags in the public setting?
This war have touched, I think, almost all in the world. Our Foreign Minister Urmas Reinsalu has said here in Kyiv very well that it's not a world war, but the world is in war. So people on other countries feeling really the rise of the price of food, electricity, even petrol or gas in gas stations. But I can confirm you, worse than rising prices when you don't have electricity at all. And I have felt it in Kyiv. If we're talking about this destroyed tank, well, I think this tank really gives us in Estonia a touch of reality. It's reminding us that this war, what is continuing here, is really real. That it's not a two-dimensional screenshot that you can switch off if you don't feel comfortable enough with that. It's a real peace from this war, and this peace is not hurting you. It's not that someone can feel the blast of rocket or missile which exploding near you. 2 days ago, we were in Zhytomyr, 150 kilometers from Kyiv, with our minister. We stayed overnight in a hotel, and 3 kilometers from our hotel, Iranian drone exploded, so not very far from us. That's the reality, what you don't want others to feel. And but about this tank, another thing I think I would suggest we should look at that with a slight black humor. What helps also to overcome the war is that let's take it as a report of the audit. Estonia has given Ukraine some military aid, quite significant actually. And this tank is like a report of how our military aid has been used. It has been used according to its purpose. So nothing has lost, nothing has been stolen or corrupt. No, it has been used on purpose, and that's the evidence of that. So that's my suggestion. Two things or two ways how to look at that.
That's a great way to look at it, because when I went and saw it for the first time in Tartu, I saw mixed reviews. There were security guards who were guarding it. There were children who were climbing on it. There was someone who put red flowers and some icons on it, and there were people who took them off. So it's getting mixed reviews, but right now I think mostly it's still positive, and people review it the way you put it, that it's like a report on what's been done with our help to Ukraine.
Totally agree. It's for us Estonians. I think it's a little bit also how to say psychological relief that for several ages Estonians have lived under the fear of Russian tank. Either it's when we have been occupied or when we are preparing to repel the possible aggression. So now we can see that, hey, even this kind of metal beast is possible to destroy, and destroy very efficiently with Javelin missiles Estonia has donated, and Estonia has actually in its stocks. Well, that's the peace from the war.
Before we move on to the parliamentary elections that were held, I would like to ask a quick question about the recent Chinese president visit to Moscow. What kind of thoughts has that given you? What do you think we will see from China's and the Russian side and their cooperation?
Sadly, to my view, China has chosen the side and chosen the wrong side of history, chosen to be on the side of dictators and authoritarian regimes. I hope you noticed that at the same time there were Japanese Prime Minister in Kyiv. So Asia has been split as well. So two mighty powers have chosen the side. Japan is in the side of free world as we are as well. So these are my quick comments on that topic.
Mm-hmm. I actually didn't know that Japan had was in Kyiv at that time, but nice to know. But
that was an event. It was short notice. Also, I think also demonstrate that actually it was quickly prepared. And why I know it very well is that our foreign minister was at the same time, same day in Kyiv, and we had some logistical challenges to adjust calendars and adjust the meetings and the times at that time and that day. But everything worked out.
So talking about Estonian politics, the recently held parliamentary elections in Estonia that were on the 5th of March showed us that there are people, primarily in Ida-Virumaa, supporting candidates that have set talking points resembling to Kremlin and Kremlin's talking points. Could this segregate our Russian community more, or actually, how could Russia itself use these election results for their propaganda?
Well, first, I'm slightly surprised that we are still surprised that we have those kind of people. I think it's a little bit of wishful thinking. We have fallen to our comfort zone, thinking that Estonia is a very dynamic, successful country. We have catched Spain, for example, in our living standard, and that's I think achievement. Absolutely, I'm amazed myself. But at the same time, there's always in every country, but not only country, but in every working team, nothing to do. There's a 10% of people who will work against the leadership. There's you can do everything what you want, but there's always a 10% who are not satisfied, and not only satisfied passively, but they will actively work against you. So the problem will occur then when the percent will rise or keep rising. So I'm pretty sure that Estonian power structures were well aware that there are people who are looking with some nostalgia, with some I don't know, imaginary feelings towards Russian Empire. And these elections, it was just a reality check. It wasn't a start of something. It was like a photo from the moment, actually. So I think it will not segregate more. It's not the reason. It's exactly the picture from the moment. Segregation is already there, and Russia has done huge efforts to have these kind of people. And our power structures, including internal security service, have done a good job in recent years, actually during the last 30 years and more, to stop it and diminish it. So in case of propaganda, Russia will do it against us always. For Russia, there is no peacetime. We in the West, and I mean, and think Estonia is also part of the West, we have enjoyed peacetime, thinking that then we almost don't need to spend on security issues. Actually, with a neighbor like Russia, sadly, it's not the case. You have to invest into security. There's a good saying what our foreign intelligence have used, that there's never too much love, there's never too much security. So you have to invest into that. So yeah, that's how I see it. And in case of Russian propaganda, they will invent whatever they would like and whatever they think is useful for them. So we shouldn't very much overthink or being over vulnerable of how something will look like. They will create fake news, partly fake news. We can also remind this good saying that a good story shouldn't be disturbed by the facts. So I think that's the motto of Russian propaganda quite always.
Well, my next question really greatly ties in with something that you just said. It's some sort of peacetime for Western nations when they are in communication with Russia, but also the main topic of the Estonian election was defense and security that you just mentioned. That is really important. And it got a lot of attention in debates, election programs, and also the party's promises that they promised to our people. But why wasn't it such a priority before the war started? Russia has always been a neighbor, as you just said. Or is it just the fact that you already mentioned that there's some sort of peacetime when Western nations communicate with Russia?
Russia has been a topic in previous elections as well, actually. I can remember some politicians who have some murky, shady, gray connections with Russia, well, saying that, hey, please don't use Russia card again or something like that. Russia card is always there, has been and will be in our election topics for sure in the future also. Because in case of Estonia, country of our size, security issues are related to foreign policy. Our foreign policy is very security related and security issues related field. And the same with domestic policies. You can't, the domestic policy economy, they are not existing in vacuum. They are interrelated and they are important for our people. So they were in the past as well in our election topics. But this year, more than ever, because we have a war in Europe which has size we have not seen and felt during the last 70 years. So this is the reason. The war is happening, war is going on, still going on, and it's really, really hard to predict when the Ukraine will finally win it. So that's the reason we discussed it more than in previous cases of elections.
But now that the elections are over and the new coalition is being formed, the new government is being formed, what are your hopes, wishes for the new government to do in the next 4 years concerning especially foreign politics?
Well, I think now is the time when we have to push NATO to be more military organization than political organization. It's usually the mixture. It's the political military alliance, as usually has been said. But in these days of heavy metal, you need put more stress on actual military capabilities. We can read from our newspapers how Western countries are struggling to have enough ammunition to support Ukraine, for example. That shows that we need to invest more on that direction, and that's the Estonian task, to push other countries also to this direction. Second, I think we have to work, Estonia, with our European Union colleagues to achieve closer economic relations with United States of America, so Northern America. If I'm saying economic, that doesn't mean that it's not the foreign policy issue. It's very much a foreign policy issue. It's the thing what diplomats should achieve, and state leaders, of course, have to decide and task diplomats to do. And the third point, how can I say something else? We need to continue to support Ukraine, and we need to push Ukraine and help them to do the homework to get into European Union and NATO. That's two organizations in the world which actually are efficiently working. They are not ideal, no, but no other organization in the world, foreign organization or international organization, actually are as efficient as those two are. So those are my wishes, and I will say directly to our ministers as well. Well, they are visiting Kyiv quite often.
Oh. You just mentioned this European Union, and it is become and put on the pedestal this last year concerning supporting Ukraine and how to tackle the war. What do you see? Has it become more of a political organization than an economical one?
Well, as I mentioned, you can't have one in vacuum without the other. The things are related. I have argued with some people from banks who has said that, well, I'm dealing only with economy, and the politics are, let's keep the politics away. No, well, capital always has a homeland or fatherland, and if this capital comes from authoritarian state, this capital is corrupt from the beginning. So political issues and economic issues are very much interrelated. The European Union and its biggest states have quite much talked about being a geopolitical power, but geopolitical power is not achievable without might. So that's why we also see European Union to make more and more steps in military field. Like I already mentioned, this acquiring additional ammunition to help ourselves and to help Ukraine as well. So, yeah, purely economic organization, well, can't exist, I think. That's my opinion. Even well, joining that hypothetical economic organization, you are making a political step already.
Yes, that's the way to put it. But you also mentioned the importance of cooperating with the United States of America. But suppose the war continues into 2024 and 2025, in that case, we could face that the new president of the United States could be again Donald Trump. He has promised to end the war quickly, but at the same time praised Putin, promised to have peace deal, and has said to be okay with losing some territory of Ukraine to Russia as well, and even with, talking about withdrawing from NATO. So, what would you say is realistic to happen once Trump is back in power?
Usually, there's one thing what you are promising before the elections, and the other thing is the reality you are facing after the election results have been counted and you have been presented the security brief, the brief about state budget situation, etc. What is definitely clear that if this scenario happens, the US politics will become more unpredictable, and this definitely is more challenge for its natural allies, what the EU is definitely is. But even US in the most egoistic moment needs allies in the current world against China, against Russian challenge. Even US can't cope alone, so allies are needed. Allies themselves, I mean, EU countries have to get out of our comfort zone. I mean, for example, investing into security more, at least 2% of GDP. Estonia is reaching the 3%, but hearing some countries complain how they can't invest into security, or that they would choose to be neutral, like Switzerland or Moldova, who is changing their mind as well, or Austria. It's quite disastrous to themselves and the others as well. So, yeah, unpredictability slightly, but even in that case, there's a channel where the leader of US probably will swim.
But when talking about allies, we see the US as our biggest partner, maybe. What do you say to people who say that the NATO ally forces are too dependent on US forces and US aid?
Well, that's the other countries have chosen it by themselves, not investing into security. Nothing to do US is the mightiest power in the world. The military means intelligence gathering and implementation capabilities. Well, no one has forced others to hold themselves back, actually. So my call is definitely that our Western partners should invest more into security.
Yes, and if Donald J. Trump is going to be the US president again, may we see maybe a meeting with him and Putin or him and Xi Jinping? What would that say to the allies right now who have chosen a side to be with Ukraine, with the Western forces against China, against Russia?
Well, it's hard to predict. Hopefully, this meeting then will take place in Putin's funeral.
Okay, well, but this was my last topical question. But to end this interview, I would like to end it on a positive note. So, as we both know, the last year has been a horrific one. But I would ask you to share a moment from this past year that you have experienced that was beautiful, has brought a smile to your face, and made you feel hopeful.
Well, it's probably birthdays of my daughters when I have a possibility to visit my family in Estonia, or hiking trip we are doing with my best friends every summer for a few days and sitting at the bonfire, or grabbing my motorcycle in a warm summer day and riding some curvy roads in North Estonia.
Yeah, I think it's nice to and really important to have those times for yourself and really get just for a moment outside of those situations that you have at hand at your work.
Agreed.
And I think that this is a positive note to end this podcast on. I would like to thank all of our listeners listening right now, and I would like to thank you, Kaimo, for being here and answering all of my questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and we usually end with wishing Slava Ukraini.
Slava Ukraini.